Oh, now I can hear myself. There we go. Right, so very warm welcome tonight to everyone here in the room and online. And Matt, I have to say, this is a wonderful example of your fan base, that they came out in this horrible weather, and they still are here. The room is absolutely packed, and it's so great to see. They're obviously really enjoying the series, and I'm sure tonight will be no exception. My name is Michelle Gurney, and I'm a trustee of Gresham College. Just before we get started, as you already know, we have a quick housekeeping announcement. The emergency exit signs are behind you, so if to the left and the right. So in the event of an emergency, staff will guide you to the meeting point. The other thing we always like to remind you of is after this lecture, there will be a short Q&A session. So have a think about what you'd like to ask. If you're online, you can use Slido to ask your questions. Here in the room, we'll turn the lights up and you can just put your hand up. If you do ask a question, we just ask you to wait until you have the microphone so that everyone online can hear your question and not just Matt's fantastic answer. So I'm just going to do a little bit about Professor Jones, who is a computer scientist at Swansea University. He's a fellow of the British Computer Society, and he currently has a fellowship from the UK Research and Innovation Foundation. And just recently, he has been appointed to the Board of Advisors of Oxford University Press. You can follow Matt on LinkedIn, and yesterday he posted this cryptic message above a photo of a crow. You may have seen it. Saw this magnificent bird in London this evening. Crows have a lot to teach us about AI. Come and see how at tomorrow's Gresham lecture. So here we are. We've already seen some visual aids here. I think we're going to be in for a very, very interesting lecture. So I'm interested in hearing more about that. And the topic, will you be AI's pet? So at that point, I'm very pleased to introduce Professor Matt Jones.
Thank you very much. And thank you all for coming this evening. It's very wet outside. I'm guessing most of you just come in to get out the rain, but I'm appreciative of that. And for those of you who are online, this talk is also very much for you. Now, let's just do a quick straw poll. Put your hand up if you came to the first lecture back in September last year. Oh, well done. Put your hand up if you came to the second lecture, which I think was in November last year. Oh, excellent. Put your hands up if you came to both lectures. Special prize. One of the people at the front who put their hands up is my son. Thank you. And he has to come. And the other is a relative. Thank you very much. Now, if this is your first time to join this series, this is the third lecture. And let me tell you, the third lecture is the best time to join us in this journey. Over the last two lectures, what we've been doing is to think about our potential relationship with artificial intelligence. In the first lecture back in September, we confronted, and I hope I deflated, the I can't even say that word, the terrible potential of AI subjugating us. AI becoming faster, smarter, more creative than us. In the second lecture, we had a conversation about this paradox. And the paradox is that a lot of researchers and a lot of developers are trying to create AI that becomes more like us, either in form, as in these humanoid robots, or in the way in which it dialogues with us. It seems that a lot of people are trying to make AI to become more like us, humans. But in the lecture, the paradox we considered was that actually, instead of AI becoming more like us, and the danger is that we become more like AI. And we saw some extreme examples of this. This is Neil Harrobson, and he's implanted a sensor into his skull. And as you can see there, he says, one day, perhaps we'll stop using technology and become more like technology itself. Now, most people in the audience back in November looked at that picture and thought, well, I'm never going to do that. And then I showed them two pictures. This one, first of all, and I asked them, and I'm going to ask you now, Think back over just the last 5 days. How many times have you held another human's hand? Gently, subtly. And then consider how many times you've held this device in your hands, just today, streaking its sleek screen. And what we saw in the last lecture was, scroll by scroll, tap by tap, perhaps we were becoming assimilated rather than AI becoming more like us. So there's the recap. It's a bit like Netflix here, but you can't skip the recap. We're on to the third lecture in the series, and tonight we're going to consider that third relationship. But before we get there, I want to jump back in time, first of all, to this little device. Did anyone have one of these quite a while ago? They're Tamagotchi. One person, anyone else? Oh, several people on that side. These were digital, or in fact, you can still buy them, right? These are digital pets. And as you can see, it just has 3 buttons, and you can feed the pet, you can exercise the pet, and you can help the pet go to sleep. Massively popular. Jump forward to 2025, when this device first was marketed by Casio, the Mofflin. And here's the Mofflin. Some of you have already had the pleasure of their company. Look at this. This is a digital pet. And it's full, as far as the marketing tells us, of emotional AI. It's marketed so that we can look after it. We can tend to it. Oh, did you hear that noise? It squeaks. I'm going to put it back in its nest for a moment. Later on, I'm going to hand it around and see how it reacts to you, the audience. So, in this lecture, though, instead of thinking about digital pets that we have to look after, I'm going to switch this around a bit and think about whether or not we are going to become the pet of AI, whether or not we're going to be tamed, domesticated by our interactions with artificial intelligence. Now, I can think of no better way to start thinking about this than with my 2 dogs. At this point, I'm very much hoping you're going to say, ah. Ah. I think they're watching at home with my wife. So Molly and Pippa, that's the names of the dogs. This one is for you. There they are. They're charming. They're lovely. And they live with me, an intelligence. And maybe one day we will live with AI, who will provide, just like I do, for all our needs and our wants. Because after all, my dogs, they have a great life. They say a dog's life is fantastic. I often look at Molly and Pippa and think, I wish I could swap places. Because they have really good food, they get private health care, they get toys and they play, and they have a secure place in life. And with all that, they don't have to pay the bills. They don't have to worry about mortgages. They don't have to worry about utilities. They just lie back and enjoy life. What's not to like? But of course, their ancestors long, long ago were wolves. Wolves that could howl at the moon and roam freely. So my dogs have traded, haven't they? That wildness, that engagement, visceral engagement with life, for care and companionship. I wonder if we'll do that. Of course, domestication of wolves took a very, very long time. And what happened was some wolves wouldn't walk past humans who were lighting fires, but would settle down, drawn by the warmth of the flame. And over time, humans trained and bred those wolves so that they could do things, that they could hunt, that they could provide companionship, and in exchange, The wolves who turned into dogs got food, got warmth, and got a place in a new form of pack. So as you're sitting there, I wonder which of you is being tempted by the flames, the white-hot flames of AI. Are you going to be sitting down next to that fire, or are you going to be walking past it? Now, I'm a dog lover. We've got dogs, 2 dogs, but of course there are many other types of pet. And what I would like to do now is to look at that spectrum of pets that you can have at home. And those pets are going to teach us a lot in this lecture about future AI. So let's start in the left-hand side with the cat. Put your hands up if you have a cat at home. Okay, quite a lot of you have cats. Cats aren't like dogs, are they? They don't really live alongside us. They live aloof from us. They come and they go. They don't really care for us in the same way, perhaps, that the dogs loyally sit on our laps. Then let's move a little bit across to reptiles. So lizards and the ilk. Now, if you have a lizard at home, then you need to make a tank and you need to create different bits of the environment for that lizard. Some bits will be hot, some bits will be cold, some bits will be light, some will be darker. And the lizard can, within the confines of that tank, have choice to move to different parts of the tank. Now, as we come down towards the right-hand side, slightly more, poignant pets, perhaps. So birds in gilded cages. Wonderful creatures. They can soar with their wings. But of course, when they're in the cage, although they still have a sense that they can do this, they know that their horizons are contained and limited. And then finally, right at the right-hand side, fish. Put your hands up if you've ever had to look after fish. Yeah, it's a nightmare, isn't it? A real nightmare. I'm just looking at Sam and Ben. We used to have a fish tank. And, if you can get everything right, like the pH of the water, the temperature of the water, you need a little filter, a little bubbly filter that goes around, then everything works well and the fish seem happy. If anything goes wrong, you come down in the morning, as Sam and Ben would attest, and you find a sorry sight at the bottom of your tank. Now, this might sound like a really strange question. It is. I want you now to think about that range of pets, including the dog. Raise your hand if you would like. You have to choose one of these, right? Raise your hand if, in another life, given what I just told you, you'd like to be a dog. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Raise your hand if you would like to be a cat. Oh, look at that. Cat Lovers League. Welcome. Let's see now. Some of you haven't yet voted. Raise your hand if you'd like to be a lizard in a tank. Oh, no one. A bird in... Oh, yes, just one. Thank you very much, sir. A bird in a cage. And a fish in an aquarium. Okay, so the cat's definitely won through there. Now, what we're going to do now is to take all of those pets, starting with the dog, and think about what they can teach us about the design of future artificial intelligence. Yeah, you're looking at me like, what? What? And there's no, I guess you could get out, but it'd be a bit embarrassing, but stay with me. So first of all, we're going to think about AI from the dog perspective. So there's Molly. Molly is sitting at my dinner table, expecting her gourmet food. And they get an amazing food from us. They have different dietary requirements that the vet has told us about. So we have personalized deliveries of food with their names on. I know, I'm mad, aren't I? What's not to like about that? Now imagine us then. Imagine this. Wouldn't you love this? You just go to your fridge, you open your fridge, and there, personalized for you, delivered automatically for you, is the food that will be best for you. If you go to the gym, there'll be certain types of food. If you have a dietary requirement, certain type of food. Wouldn't that be fantastic? Or maybe not. Maybe you love going down the market, meandering, having banter with the market traders. We used to live near Portobello Road, and we used to have a lot of banter with market traders as we picked up mushrooms and looked for onions. There's Pippa, and you'll see Pippa has got one of those collars on because she's had an infection and we don't want her to lick the wound. Claire and I, Claire's my wife, we are always looking after our dogs. We're trying to find out if there's anything wrong with them, and we quickly intervene. We worry a lot. Over Christmas, one of them ate a piece of chocolate. There's panic in the house because, as you might know, dogs and chocolate don't mix. All the time, we, as another intelligence, are overseeing our two dogs and quickly intervene to provide them with good health care. Now, wouldn't it be great if the sort of devices that probably some of us have today, the smartwatches, this kind of gadget I wear on my wrist, instead of just telling me a bit about my body, could provide an AI, a machine learning system, with data that could allow pharmacists and doctors and other carers to quickly intervene? Wouldn't that be wonderful? Or maybe not. Maybe externalizing and quantifying our lives, turning ourselves, if you like, into a spreadsheet, might not be the best way forward. Oh, gave Pippa this little toy, little squeaky toy. She loves it. And dogs, are always given just enough sort of challenge to have some enjoyment, to have exercise, to be intrigued, to play. Wouldn't it be great if we could have that? Anyone here do on an app called Duolingo? Yeah, Duolingo. If you haven't come across it, it's fascinating. It started as a language teaching app, but now you can learn bits of music and you can learn chess and all sorts of things. Duolingo gives you just enough challenge to keep you engaged, to stop you getting bored. Just like the things I do for Molly and Pippa. And then, of course, I told you that Molly and Pippa have a secure place in the social order. And in our house, that means certainly above me. Okay? I wonder, wouldn't it be great for us if we designed AI that would just find the right people for us, put us into a nice pack, nothing too challenging, just cozy and warm. But perhaps some of you sitting there saying, no, I want to be challenged, I want to meet new people, I want to find new experiences. Okay, so that's the dog version of AI. Let's more quickly think about the other pets we encountered earlier on. So remember, I said cats don't live with us, they live aloof from us. And in a cat AI world, what that would mean is the AI really doesn't enclose us. We would have meaningful exit, like the cat flap, that allows the cat to go out and roam and forage at night. What about the reptile AI? Remember I said the reptiles world is definitely constrained. You have a tank, but you design different places, warm, hot, cold, light, and dark. And the reptile can have some sort of agency, choice, to move as it wishes. Maybe that's the kind of AI world we'll build. nice places for us to choose between, but definitely designed, definitely constrained by the AI we produce. Let's get on to the more poignant cases. The bird in a cage still has the ability, if it was taken out of the cage, to flap its wings and soar into the sky. But it might know, it might be aware that it just can't. I'm wondering if when you and I have started to use some of these emerging AI systems, the ones that can generate text and generate images, do you feel that sense that what is meant to be ours, the flapping and the expression of what we are as people, is being constrained behind some gilded bars? And finally, on to the fish. So in a way, the fish have a wonderful life, don't they? As long as everything goes to plan. As long as the water is the right pH, it's the right temperature, and there's lots of bubbles, and you give a little bit of food, everything is fine. One thing goes wrong, fish is dead at the bottom of the tank. Well, actually, they float to the top. Increasingly, we can choose, as individuals and as a society, to have our worlds precisely engineered by AI, a perfect environment for us to swim in. And it could be fantastic, unless something goes wrong, and then catastrophes could happen. Okay, now we need to go back to our animals, and you voted 5 minutes ago on what kind of animal you want to be. Now I've used those animals as a sort of metaphor for future AI. I want to see where you now stand. So, first up, who would like to live the dog's AI life? One person. Who would like to live the cat's AI life? Still a Cats Lover League, definitely here en masse. Who would like to live the reptile's AI life? Nice landscapes, provided for you, a little bit of choice, still no one. The bird AI life. And finally, the fish. A perfect environment, everything works for you, seamless, frictionless. Good. Well, I can see that in the first 2 lectures, those of you who've come along, I've converted you to the right set of answers. There was one animal, though, that I didn't ask you about. Put your hands up if actually you'd prefer to be this. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yes, perhaps some of us will want that choice, that we will want to roam and howl at the moon. Let's come back to humans now, and I want us to think about how we can be tamed by machine learning and AI throughout our lives. So, for example, there are lots of services out there now, apps and devices, that for any stage of your life you can name, there will be something to sort of make it less wild, less scary, more tamed. So, for example, Sound Dream is a relatively new company, and what they sell a number of things, but one of the things is a device that sits with your infant child, a bit like the old-fashioned monitors, baby monitors, but this time it's listening to the child's cry and interpreting it, and then sending an interpretation to the parents so that you can intervene and give comfort at a moment. Not just to pick it up and try and soothe it, but you'll have an understanding about what those cries mean. Later on in life, if that baby grows up, it might have a job. And here's the irony, a lot of jobs, we're told, have been taken away by AI. And if you do get a job, your company will use AI to perhaps monitor you and evaluate you. So this company, you can see there on the little insert, it will look at the messages the conversations that your employees are having and jump in if they're being too wild. As it says, if they step out of line. The one I want to focus on, though, is a stage of life that will come to us all, our older age. And there has been huge amounts of research over the last, probably at least 30 years by technologists, by computer scientists, to try and provide systems that will look after us as we get older. So you can fill your home with all sorts of sensors that can predict if you're about to fall, if you've stopped doing your daily care routines, like having a shower, if you're not eating well, and then intervene, maybe calling up your children. And to my children, I shall have one of these systems, and I shall expect you to be there within seconds of that ping. Now, of course, these systems, if they help people live at home longer and independently, they seem like a good thing. So I'm not knocking them. But they take a very declinist view of aging. They see getting old almost like an illness, that we are failing into our graves. There's a different design perspective that you can have, and it's one that's been pioneered by Yvonne Rogers in UCL and colleagues, and that's to see aging as a new phase of activity and of growth and empowerment. And we've been inspired, my team in the Computational Foundry, with that perspective, and I just want to spend 2 minutes showing how you can go from putting sensors and machine learning in a house to look after you, to protect you, to an alternative perspective, which is to empower and allow you to grow. So, what we did was to, just as with, hang on, this should start, yeah. Just as with the declinist systems, we worked with older adults, we went into their homes, and we asked them, where could we put very small sensors? And you can see on the little video different places that the older adults suggested to us. Each one of those sensors, when it's activated, just sends a tiny bit of data. And all that data is collected together in the house, doesn't go outside the house, doesn't get sent to a care provider, doesn't get sent to the loved ones remotely. It stays in the house and then is processed, and I'll come to that in a moment. We asked the older adults to associate each of the places that they put a sensor with one of 3 activities: hobbies, chores, and socializing. And the idea was that by simply sensing when drawers were open, or a dishwasher was opened, or a toy box was opened, we could surface the life of the home to the occupants, to get them to reflect on how they were living in the house. And we presented the data to them in some simple ways. The first way was physical light boxes. You can see here, that's actually Ben's hand, I think, sitting at the front. Each of these pods relates to one activity: chores, socializing, or hobbies. And the lights show how much activity had been going on in the home that day. We also showed the older adults just the raw data. And you can see on the left-hand side the little pings of data that happened. And on the right-hand side, you can see a heat map showing times of day and the different levels of activity in those 3 chores. We also sent all of the data to a generative AI system, which turned that data into a report. Now, the most important thing for you to remember and to think about in terms of this system is that instead of this being something to protect, and enclose the older adults. We were giving them information so they could think about their lives. I'm just going to show you a couple of quotes from the paper that we published. So one of the participants, an older adult, said this. They saw from their data that they weren't reading as much as they thought, and that they'd been binge-watching box sets. And I can see some people laughing here. Yeah, we'd all love to read a lot more, but we end up watching Netflix, right? And then down towards the end, the large language model took a lot of the data from this participant's house, and it said something like, this elderly couple danced the night away. And as you can see from this quote, they said, we do no such thing. The only time my partner ever dances is when he's had at least 5 pints. Let's come back to pets and animals. And let's think not only about AI, but about alternate intelligences. And here's a task now for you. I've been speaking for 25 minutes, and now it's your turn. Here's a chart. It's a representation, some form of representation of what intelligence is. And I've put humans in one section of the chart, and I've put some animals in the middle. I'm not going to tell you what the x-axis is or the y-axis. Which is a bit unfair, really, isn't it? What I want you to do now is to work out where would you put state-of-the-art AI on this chart. Things like large language models. And I want you to do this by turning to somebody next to you, perhaps someone you haven't met before, and have a little conversation. Where on that chart would you put state-of-the-art AI, and why? You've got 2 minutes. Make some noise. You can talk about something else. I'll never know. But Mofflin will. So I'll come back to you in 2 minutes. Where would you put large language models on this chart? Okay, if you can bring your conversations to a close. I don't know what you were talking about. Let me just say it's very encouraging as a speaker that you were making lots of noise. And you were also doing arms as if you were doing a very good job convincing me you were talking about the task. So thank you. So would anyone like to suggest an answer and tell me where on the chart and why, given your understanding of X and Y? So, yes, if you, right at the back, shout it out, and I'm going to repeat it for people who are online.
I think, yeah, the y-axis is like general intelligence or cognitive intelligence. But then I think the x-axis is how often you apply that intelligence. So let's say like animals that really apply that intelligence much more than we do. So I think generative AI is really on the opposite right-hand corner.
So just to repeat for the folks online, you're saying down here?
Well, yeah.
At the bottom or up the top? Bottom right-hand quadrant. Okay, yeah. Put your hands up if you also thought that was where you'd put LLMs. Okay, a few people. Someone else then, thank you very much, sir, for that answer. And very good kind of like thinking about those dimensions of what intelligence are we talking about in that chart. Anyone else on this side want to proffer an answer? No, don't look at me. I'm looking at you. You.
We were saying like away from the animals on the left-hand side of the view, and humans right-hand side.
Okay.
Kind of on that side. So
How high up?
yeah. Well, I don't know. Because we're saying which kind of policy intelligence you're talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
For example, let's say it's smart. So we think it's going to be smarter than us. We're saying.
So you're thinking, just to repeat for the audience, I would say the audience at home, the audience online, all three of you. No, there are lots. We'll never know. So above the animals and to the right of the humans? Okay, okay. Next to the humans. Okay, anyone else have it roughly there? Next to the humans, high up above the animals? Yeah, quite a few, quite a few. Well, ponder that a bit more in your own time. This is where I think I would put it. Down there. So I think with you, sir, at the back. It's really important, I think, for us to think about dimensions of intelligence and what we expect of this emerging, fantastical AI. And I'm not trying to, in any of this, to kind of downplay what we're seeing happening technologically. There are some amazing bits of algorithm, amazing ways of using data. But it does strike me that we are trying, or many researchers, many developers and commercial companies are trying to see intelligence as if it was a ladder. And there's something down here, you know, slime mold. There's something up here, which is us. And then there's a dog here. And the aim is to get large language model. Oh, yeah, Mofflin. Oh, yeah. I think, actually, because you were very attentive, you need to look after Mofflin. It was going to fall. When he falls, if he falls, he makes a really bad squeaky noise. So look after him. So this kind of ladder of intelligence. If we step back, really, there's a landscape of intelligence. Let's just think about that start with the slime mold. Slime mold has no neurons, it has no brain, but it can solve mazes. It can optimize networks. So the question that comes to my mind is, why are some of us, not all researchers, fixated on thinking that AI must be like us? Or what about octopuses? They have 9 centers of intelligence. They have their brain, if you like, and their arms, their limbs, can think, inverted commas, independently. But most AI today, even the AI that's called agentic, agent-based, with lots of bits of AI running around working together, is coordinated centrally with one locus of control. Now, Michelle said, gave a teaser about crows. And you'll know, even if the only thing you know about crows is Aesop's fables, is that crows are incredibly clever. They can use tools, and this is a recreation of an experiment that was done in Stanford, I think, to show that crows could work out how to get food out of a water container. Crows aren't generally intelligent. They're clever at being crows, and they do it really well. So a provocation to people like me and people like you who are thinking about AI, why are we obsessed then with the notion of general intelligence? Don't we need crow AI? If you came to the first and or the second lecture, you'll remember this graphic. I'm so pleased I've used it in every lecture. Does anyone remember what this animal is? Why did I use it? It's not an exam, as I'll tell you. It's a stochastic parrot. And I was inspired to make that little video by this really well-cited paper by Emily Bender and colleagues, who said that, large language models are simply probabilistic parrots. They take in lots of stuff, and then they generate output mathematically. Stochastic, mathematics, probability, parrot, producing. Real parrots, though, are incredibly clever. I don't know if you've come across this one. There's a book about this parrot called Alex. It's a really fantastic read. Irene Pepperberg lived with this parrot for a long time. And this parrot exhibited incredible forms of understanding. It could work out relationships and concepts. Real parrots have intelligence. Large language models don't. They don't understand the connections and meanings between words. And of course, then there are my dogs. Dogs, well, they're not brilliant puzzle solvers, I can tell you. But they have, anyone who has a dog, wonderful empathy. And, if you like, social intelligence. So, it's a reminder to all of us, I think, that at the moment, AI developers, AI researchers are, on the whole, having too thin an understanding of what intelligence is. And we need to consider the landscape of intelligence and not just always the ladder, trying to get something which is like us or better than us. Now, I should say, of course, that there are researchers that are taking account of this landscape. So, for example, there are machine learning systems that do one thing really well. So in this case, the machine learning system can help a radiologist spot a tumor. This, if you like, is Crow AI. It's doing one thing really well. This little gadget here is another example of Crow AI. It's called a leak bot. And you clip it onto your water pipe that's coming into your home. And this little gadget listens to the water that's flowing through your pipe. And over time, it picks up a picture of normal water flow in your house. And then if there's a leak, even a small leak, this Crow AI does one thing really well, can alert you so you don't have a major flood. Ants are amazing. They're not very clever individually, but collectively, they can optimize paths to forage food. And ants have, indeed, inspired researchers going back 20, 30 years to think about how we could build AI systems that, instead of being super intelligent, simply tries to find paths through a problem in a collective way. Researchers are beginning to see that bio-inspired AI could be a good way forward. Now, we're coming to the end of the lecture. We've had some lessons already about our relationships with AI. We've learned from our pets and animals, and also how we might go beyond today's orthodox design of AI. But they have one more lesson for us. And that lesson is going to come from the charming academic discipline of animal-computer interaction. Yes, people are paid, they get research grants to understand how animals can interact with digital devices and services. Some of you are sitting there saying, my tax is going for that? But let me tell you, it's a good thing, because animals are inhabiting the world with us, and they will interact with digital devices and services. But what we'll see in a moment is that that research can also inform how we might design better AI-human interactions. I'm just going to give you two lovely examples from the literature. This system, and I'll just bring the video up, these researchers designed a system to empower parrots, back to parrots, to initiate video calls to talk to their friends over Zoom. Isn't it amazing? Life is one. Aren't we brilliant as humans and researchers? Look at that. So let's just play that video. So the parrot was trained to ring a little bell. And this parrot is sort of ringing a bell. And then the researcher brings up an iPad.
Which friend would you like to call?
And the parrot can peck on which of its friends it wants to call. Lovely. What about dogs? A lot of research in animal-computer interaction has been about dogs. And in this paper, the researchers looked at designing the world to help assistance dogs navigate it more effectively. So you can see here, instead of putting the door opener at a human level, they've put the door opener at a dog level so it can nose the button and the door opens. What these, and there are many examples like this, speak to me about are, goodness me, we're doing a lot of research that empowers animals, and at the same time, we seem to be doing a lot of research that tames and constrains humans. But you know, nature will always find a way. And to end the lecture, I want us to consider this wonderful movement that's happening around the world called rewilding. Rewilding in nature is where human intervention realizes that it's not the only thing on the planet. It steps back and it allows nature to have its way. If we apply those principles to AI, then I think we are going in the right direction. AI needs to know its place, and we, who design it, needs to understand that. There's some brilliant principles in rewilding of nature. If you can go online, there's big organizations you can join. And those principles really apply, I think, to future AI design. We need to be building systems that provide hope and purpose for us, rather than make us feel that life is uncertain and fragile. We need to understand that life is so diverse. Look in this room, just this room. Each of you with your experiences and backgrounds, not one culture. And we need to ensure we build AIs to reflect that diversity. And then most important of all, we need to give agency to us so that we don't perhaps become the pet of AI. Here's a scene. I asked AI to generate it. This is a non-rewilded scene. So you can see that the road takes precedence and the river's been rerouted. You can see that the trees have been planted in a particular way. There's some burning of crops on one of the mountains. If we were rewilding that, it might look like this. The river has precedence, nature leads. Trees and plants grow where they want. Let's have a think about us. Perhaps we're going towards this unrewilded world. Let's imagine if we took the rewilding principle. Yeah, much happier. Much happier. But look, the technology's still there, right? You can see the technology. There's still some signage, there's some headphones, but it's not prominent. Now, you've listened very, very carefully, so I'm going to ask you just one final question. And I'm not going to give you the answer because Gresham lectures are all about conversation and coming to our own conclusions. But this is the question for you tonight. Are you going to be AI's pet, or are you going to be a rewilder? And it's over to you because it's time to think. Thank you.
Gosh, fantastic. Oh, and then we've got the resources as well. Excellent. Thank you so much,
Pleasure.
Matt. Fantastic. I think we've all really enjoyed that, and now we have a few minutes for questions. So if you would like to ask a question in the room, put your hand up, and we have a microphone that can come to you. And just while we're doing that, we have a question online, which is quite interesting. It's going back to your original discussion about the different animals. And this person is saying, I might be a cat now, but I might want to be a lizard when I'm elderly.
Ah.
Is your animal more about choosing when to be which animal?
That's a really, whoever put that question in online, thank you very much, or in the room via Slido. Yes, I suppose that is a good way of looking at it, as long as the agency rests with us. If we decide that we want to use the kind of system that allows us to live at home, that is monitoring us, that is sending kind of alerts to our care providers, that could be excellent. The danger, I think, is perhaps that we are sold these visions of care and comfort, which are really not great replacements for the human touch. So I think any of us, and my parents are at that stage now, thinking about, my initial reaction was to rush in and put technology everywhere so I could watch them with cameras. You can imagine my mother, what she said there, or sense if they were going to fall. And I came to realize that although that sort of made sense, it took away a lot of what my parents were. I was imposing a framework. Now, if they'd chosen to do it, and they could have control about, where that data was going and who was seeing it, then yes, that might be a nice solution. But I am wary.
Right, excellent. Now, I think we did have some questions.
When I get questions, I need some emotional support.
I guess my question is stimulated by the start when you showed the difference between stroking a hand and stroking a phone. And you talked at the end about social AI, and you talked about effectively EQ.
Yeah.
Do you think, therefore, that sometimes we talk too much in relationships, as with pets and other people, about intelligence and not enough about empathy, by which I really mean sentience, and also consciousness? And do you think that while AI can be intelligent, it can never be sentient and possibly never consciousness, and therefore we will never be its pet?
Ooh, very good. So I am entirely in your park, I think, around sentience and empathy. Let me say it so it can be recorded. AI will never provide... Hang on a second. AI will never have empathy or cause an emotional attachment and won't be sentient. Sorry. I entirely agree. And I think having those kind of discussions can let us have a collective sigh of relief, because the more that we can remind ourselves and our children and our grandchildren that everyone in this room and them are, really special. They have an essence that can never be encoded or programmed. That will move the debate onwards. Now, the second part of your question was, you said that, and therefore, we could never be AI's pet. I'm not so sure, because thinking about my dogs, they don't really probably have a theory of my mind, and they don't have a theory of whether or not I'm sentient. They just know that I will provide for them, and they like it. I give them food, I tickle their tummy. If something another intelligence does that for us, perhaps we will also react in the same way as those dogs. Lap it up. Does anyone want to go at this little robot? Oh, not a robot. There we are. There we go. It's never been handled, except for tonight, except by me. So I'm a little concerned that it might do something which emergent behavior. And there was another question somewhere.
Yes, just over here.
Thank you. I'm wondering whether there are sort sort of outside economic influences who have a vested interest in turning us all into aquarium fish, and how much autonomy and choice we really have in that environment.
Yeah, I love philosophers and philosophy, and one of my favourite ones is Wall-E. So if you've seen that film, a Disney film, it is incredible. And there are scenes in that film where basically humans on a spaceship have everything provided for them. Every whim, every drink is given to them. And there is definitely a controlling power that sees keeping them well-fed, well-watered, and not alive as a very important thing. And yeah, there are a large number of thinkers and writers who will say exactly the same is happening to all of us through the current emergence of AI. And you don't even have to go to, the most state-of-the-art AI. Any of us that are using social media, right? We're using an algorithm which is data-driven, and that data is driving our engagement. And the most benign thing it's doing is perhaps giving us opportunities to buy stuff. So there's a capitalistic motive. But, as we've seen in many kind of elections, there could be powers that want you to see certain content that changes you from right-leaning to left-leaning or left-leaning to right-leaning. Now, I'm not a political activist and I'm not an economist. Daniel Susskind, who's another Gresham professor, talks very powerfully about some of these motives, so please come to his lectures. But I think wake up, all of us, and reflect. Many of the things that computer scientists like me build, and I have to represent them, could be really great for us, right? But don't just take them as a deterministic future. Question it and provoke it. Howl at the moon like those wolves.
Fantastic. Do we have one more question? I've got one online, but do we have another question in the room?
One at the back and one online.
Oh, goodness. Great.
It's not really, I guess it's a question, but when you say will be AI's pet, I guess we've got to define what a pet is, and I guess you said features of a pet is to be subjugated, potentially, and in a way, not my statement, but I think, what are your thoughts on people who fall in love with an AI and are subjugated in that way? It's like, yeah, good.
Yeah. Well, I can see it, so I'm watching my Mofflin. By the way, I haven't got a name for this little creature, so if anyone on Slido wants to put a name, I'll announce the name next time. This Gresham Professorship, which is very generously sponsored by the worshipful company of IT, is actually over 3 years. So I've got to do 18 lectures. This is number 3. And I enjoy every single one, mainly because I get to see and talk with people like yourselves. And in the second year, that is one of the topics I want to consider. Can we fall in love with something that isn't sentient, that has no real empathy, doesn't really care for us, but gives, if you like, a performance of love and care? Now, someone said here, and I was going to say it too, isn't that what humans sometimes do? And with that, we probably should leave it.
So the last question we'll just do then, and I think this is a great way to finish off the lecture. AI seems to be a waypoint on a journey. Is it likely AI will be a tool, but with limited use, and will eventually outlive its own usefulness?
Yeah, I think, we're going through a phase now, a kind of summer of AI, and it is blisteringly hot. Okay, there are indications that perhaps things are cooling again, and those of you who came to the first lecture will know that we've been through these peaks of hype, AI summers, and then we go into this AI winter, where everybody thinks, well, that was disappointing. I think what we'll see is not an extreme kind of deep freeze in the future, because these technologies are remarkably different to some of the earlier AI technologies. But I think I'm sensing a shift in the zeitgeist away from seeing these things as super intelligences or being able to do everything and becoming much more instrumental. And that will be one of the perspectives we look at in a future lecture in this series, when we just see that these things could be ways, instead of a cage that encloses the bird that wants to flap its wings, instead of a technology that shuts down our power of expression and creativity, if we can think of building systems that allow us to soar, like a violin that we can play as a virtuoso, then we're going to see some remarkable change in society. And with that, I guess we're out of time.
Fantastic, yes. So, just a few things. First of all, the thing I learned. Tuesday here in the hall and again online. In-person tickets are available 4 weeks before that date, or you can sign up to watch it online now. The topic for the lecture on March 17th is Born Supremacy, AI as a Pale Shadow of Real Humanity. So we hope to see all of you again, and thank you very much for coming out on this wet night. Thank you.